I just love talking about board games, and you know what? We got some topics this week because crowdfunding. Yeah, I am a week behind, but that means we get to smash 2 weeks together into one, and I get to give you more opinions in less video in, well, maybe more time, maybe less time. But you know there's going to be some strong thoughts. Let's freaking go. Where do we start? Of course, we're going to start with Don't Frickin' Starve, the board game. It's actually Don't Starve, you know, in case you're confused by my weird wording there. Sorry, it's going to be one of those videos, folks. 15,000 folks are backing this. Over $2 million freaking dollars. This is insane. I love looking at these projects. Although it is staying true to that IP in a faithful manner, it is not a carbon copy of the original in the first place, just skinned over to the tabletop. It's a brand new style of adventure set in the same realm with more of a scenario-driven approach. And so you're going to be moving around a slowly intertwining, unveiling realm through day and night phases, dealing with shadow creatures, trying to mitigate damage, your sanity, your health, or even the light that is necessary to keep you alive in the first place. Roguelike survival game for 1 to 4 players. So that is the gist of it. It has a 20-page-ish rulebook, though when you pull it up, I mean, it's really kind of 2 pages in one, so it's a little longer than it actually appears, but it is very well thoroughly laid out as a, well, not so light reading. You have 5 main actions and 3 free actions that you are going to be taking on your turn as you go around and flip your token indicating your turn from active to inactive in any order you so choose. Rinse and repeat, remove the action tracker down by 1 until it gets to 0, and then the shadow phase occurs where you will be spawning shadow creatures to do damage to those other 3 areas I just mentioned, and trying to deal with them along the way by using the resources, the recipes, and the food to, well, not have the bad things happen in the first place. And you will be crafting and exploring as you're unlocking new areas, new secrets, and new threats going along. The interesting aspect, as you know with me, is that there are 2 versions, and I really enjoy those acrylic-looking standees for $50 less than it's going to cost to get the miniature version. And they actually look really good. And again, because they're colored, and I'm not very good with gray plastic on my tabletop. Like I mentioned, this is working with the previous publisher and going to give us a brand new form of this game in the first place. Now, there are going to be some stretch goals, so take that for what you will, because it is gameplay content alongside of a few deluxifications. And, you know, it's not a small amount at the time of me filming this that have already been unlocked. Actually, just before filming this, I got the copy of the prototype in the mail. So before this campaign ends, I will have more hands-on opinions. I don't have any opinions on this channel whatsoever. Anytime, as many of you know, talking about how I feel about it, because with several of the other games I've recently played, I feel like, spoiler alert, 2025 is an outstanding top to bottom and may yet be ultimately declared as the year of cooperative games. So I'm intrigued by what this can add just even frickin' more. The modular factors that you are going to be dealing with, however, as you're doing all of those things I just said, you're going to be having weather. You're going to be having heavy use of dice, especially on the monster, but also on the success side of things for your own individual characters, which are showing some asymmetry in terms of the abilities and their equipment that they start out with and can obtain. Now, just like I talked about earlier in the week with Honor's End, my concern is that the game mode situation of the unlocks, am I going to get to all the cool stuff if I'm buying the game? I really am trending a little bit overall more towards, or I should say more away from, significant amount of cool stuff hidden behind whatever, right? You know, I think of games like even Tamashii, or anything along those lines, legacy-esque, where you're additionally adding things, like, I want to be able to use them. I want to be able to integrate them. I want to have access to them sooner rather than later so I can actually utilize them in my game-by-game situation. And so when you're taking more of a Slay the Spire, Dead Cells-esque vibe with the roguelite repeated play improving, the other aspect that has to be highlighted or mentioned in this regard is it also, even though the core loop is going to be the same, it can't be so repetitive that it doesn't make me want to play it over and over again. And that is what these video games are so good at, is that you are doing the same thing over and over again, and you are getting a completely different experience and a completely engaging time every single freaking time. That is what we're looking for here as, again, we go through the other elements, unique strengths, weaknesses, the asymmetry that I mentioned, the shadow creature cards that get layered down next to your character and then get activated and having to deal with their powers and their abilities, and just having to actually be proactive in these actions and not being able to just survive. You're going to have to survive in that way, which, if you can do the balance right of things, I am super interested. You got a nice little base situation here to give you some mitigation, to give you some bonuses and extra effects, and then the enemies that you're going to be dealing with, as well as, like I mentioned, the dice-based combat for seeing who is, well, actually going to come out on top. So I wonder, or the other question I would love to see this on the video game side of things all the time, right? It's this many hours to finish the game. It's this many hours, I almost hit the mic and turned it off, to 100% the game. If you're going to have me unlock stuff, how many plays, how many scenarios, if they go average length, is it going to take me to do such a thing with this? Rulebook frickin' day one. Boom! Thank you, Glass Cannon Unplugged. How to play. A little bit of everything else. We'll skip past this and we'll get into, well, expansions. Because at some point, further in the campaign, we'll have expansions. And so this is probably going to be one of those games I will include in the, well, I have not done one recently, the don't back it or the should you back, because I like doing both of those, but it just kind of varies which one I want. Speaking of those, as we unlock more of them as the campaign progresses, we have a mini expansion adding up just all of the good stuff that you want. And then a little bit bigger expansion in the Lands Uncharted, adding new dimensions of bad guys and actual areas as well. Then we venture down into more of the character side of things to give you more asymmetric options and potential further deluxifications. So that is what we've got going on right now. Plenty of video content, and your boy will have one out before the end of the campaign as well. Gosh, you know, it's nice sometimes being a second tier person like myself and not having to have it always right out on the day of campaign. I've got plenty of those too, but sometimes it's nicer to have one where I'm not like pushed for the actual date and I have more of the campaign length too. So Glass Cannon Unplugged, this thing is killing it absolutely right now. So let's see where it ends up and what else they have in store for us. Now we're talking about Uprising, the legendary big box and true solo mode, Curse of the Last Emperor from Nemesis Games. You know my opinions on it, right? This is a fantastic 4X cooperative, harder than most of the games you've ever played in your collection style of things. But, unless it is one of your favorite games of all time, right? This is probably an easy pass. But this is also the only place to get it. Nemesis Games has been very clear that this is, as right on the screen and smack dab in front of you, not at retail. And if you look up, it's like a Wolf of Designs with Guards of Atlantis 2, right? This isn't just smoke and mirrors, look that way while I send it to a couple distributors or stores. It just isn't available. And so if you want to get it, you almost need to get it here or risk getting the price scalped like Pokemon cards on the secondary board game market. That's me. Don't listen to me, though, again, because that's what I always say. I like the fact that they have gone out of their way with this one, though, and said, if you want it, get it. If you don't, but both the true solo mode and the big box were designed by people that were solely there for the love of those aspects. They are not shoehorned in. They are designed truly, truly, truly for this game for those reasons. So if it is something that you're interested in, it's probably going to be a notch above your generic, I can't tell if this was done first or if this was done to help me sort of things. I'm not going to go into the gameplay content, right? This is an asymmetric faction-based team up on different parts of the map, conquer, upgrade, asymmetric against the AI with dice-driven combat. I'm not the sole person that loves this game, right? There's plenty of stuff out there at this point with, I believe, their third campaign now. I mean, look, there's Paul. There's Paul. He's talking about the production. It's expensive, though. And I'd make the argument that it's one of those situations where if you backed it a couple years ago on crowdfunding as an original backer, you paid less. But you can't expect a company that put out a product of this production quality, as Paul says, for the price to remain static, I don't know, 5 years later, especially with the WTF tariff shipping situation that's going on in North America, specifically a big portion of the middle of North America idiots running it. And you're getting the free treasure chest of stuff if you are backing it all at this point. But if you're going to buy a couple $100s of a game at this point, right, it better be absolutely a knockout of the park for you. This is not one where you wonder if this is it and maybe try it on the secondary market. This is one that you should be watching other people's gameplay. You should read some of the rule books. All of the rule books are available, even the ones for this campaign, to know whether or not these frickin' looking awesome standees are for you. And I'll leave it relatively there. Here's the other prices. $49 for the solo, $49 for the treasure chest that you get for all the units, new gameplay, and unlocks. And there you go. Gives you every way that you wanna a la mode it that you can think of there. Addressing the previous expansion content, as well as all the little extras that you really don't need in the first place either, because let alone one expansion will be more than you're going to play in the next year. Nice little graphic down here. A lot of the gameplay, a lot of GIFs that are going to give you info, smarter people than I talking about it in video form content, and you can get everything that you want right on the page. So we'll see. There you go, though. $400,000. Killing it. The biggest surprise, though, for me at this point is Monolith's Berserk with over €1 million right out of the gate. And I guess I would raise the question, how much of this is the miniature? How much of this is the IP? Because this was, well, a lot more than I expected. And I say that as a great thing, right? But the one thing I wonder about, though, is the gameplay going to hold up if you're going in for the IP? That is always the biggest question in a dark fantasy manga-based situation here. The rule book is 46 pages long, and that's what you kind of have to be aware of. Is this the type of game for you? Because when you're looking at some of these graphics right here, it gives you almost an Oathsworn vibe, but in the 4-phase round system of the hero going, the bad guys using their simplistic AI deterministic behavior going, then your event phase where stuff just happens randomly, followed by the upkeep, gathering your action cards back up to be able to be used forward. The main mechanistic approach that they're going with, though, is that this is going to have a unique fatigue system that is going to be reflective of how strong the moves are that you're using, and subsequently changing what happens as it builds up. You can see it right there in the middle of the right side of the board. They say they're going to deluxify the hell out of it. They're not even going to be able to fit it all in one box. And it's a lot of plastic. 123. Although those are looking really tiny. I mean, the sword looks really freaking awesome. The details look awesome there. But, okay, those small ones, it reminds me more of like a Lucky Duck situation, if you will. And it is a survival game at its core, though, because you will be going straight up from the rulebook against mobs of enemies here, as you can see, that will outnumber you through an 11 venture core system that is going to be available right there. Whoa, 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 whoa. As you can see, the solo expansion is 80 euros. The base game price for this of the core pledge, 200 euros. And then it just makes me wonder, well, what else do they have in store for us going forward? Because I feel like they have done the Simon Awakened Realms style of slowly revealing more stuff as the campaign goes on. And there's tons of stuff. There's video preview content galore down here if that is your gain. But I wasn't kidding about the rule book here being 46 pages. And so is this going to be a barrier for you getting it played? A lot of interaction, ally interaction, enemy interaction, everything that you're going to be having to deal with as, well, a dice-based combat system and giving you just tons of variety. How do you feel about them apples? I'm intrigued to see where it goes, and I'm intrigued to see where it's going to end and what the final price point is going to be depending on how many more expansions they have hidden up their sleeve. Return to frickin' Dark Tower Expeditions. Now, in the comment section down below, convince me to buy this game. This is a game I have sort of poo-pooed on my channel several times. I like the idea of it. I like the idea of someone else owning this and bringing it over as a cooperative, electronic-based, do some of the upkeep style game. But this is the one that I just can't also get out of my head. Now this is giving you little sideboards that you get to adventure to. So I can't actually speak to this comparison-wise to the other expansions because I don't have a copy, because I've only played it a handful of times, because it's freaking expensive for the cooperative game aspect, right? $99 for a new expansion. Oh, but that's getting you sleeve packs and deluxeifications and... Wait a second. Okay. Best solo game, Marvel of Engineering, sure, whatever. Innovation Game of the Year, best co-op. So was that actually the best co-op, or is that cherry picking a quote that says more than that? I don't know, right? Promos, discounted pricing, but yeah, I know. It's sort of like some of the other campaigns where I think this is truly discounted pricing, but I don't even want to know what the all-in is for this one, right? $45 for the regular base game, KKK, and sold out base game, good freaking gracious, $160? So that seems like a lot of money to me, and I don't have the greatest memory, as you guys all know. My ability to even reiterate rules sometimes when I'm doing reviews is SH crappy. So I pulled up the previous campaigns, which also raised another interesting issue in my head, right? Backer Kit here has $2 million, 17,000 backers. I was like, okay. Here are the pledge levels, $55 for Covenant there. And then we get down here, Covenant Deluxe, $75, which is less for the base of the new one, but more for the deluxeification, but $150 for the base game there. Okay, but where I'm going with this is the original Return to Dark Tower campaign was $125, so $35 upgrade over 5 years. I mean, I don't think that's outside of the realm of inflation, just like with Uprising Curse of the Last Emperor. So that's not where I'm going with this. But where I'm going is I buried the lead because I scrolled down here just to mess with you there. $4 million on Kickstarter originally. $2 million on Backer Kit. Is that why they came back over to Kickstarter? Because the return of interest, essentially, isn't as good on Backer Kits? Ooh. I just saw some data, or I should clarify that. I did not see the data, but GameFound posted on their little blog, Facebook, I forget which one it was, that basically they cherry-picked a bunch of the campaigns over the last year or two and said that there is a 91% return on interest of porting over from Kickstarter to GameFound. But again, I don't know what the N sample size was with that. I don't remember if they said that. But also, I wonder if it included every project or just the ones that were positive. Or again, it was a net, so what were the individual ones? Because I can imagine that you have several massive ones that could dwarf some of the other ones as well. Anyway, that's a side video in and of itself. But I don't frickin' know. This seems like a great expansion. Battle Essentials, you get Alliances, Covenant, and Expeditions, all for... Okay, that's actually not as bad as I was expecting. $250 for the all-in gameplay, including 3 expansions. That's less than I actually was fearing it was going to be. Covenant, though. Okay, where are all the additional add-ons? I want to look at that since we just looked at Covenant, and I know what Covenant was. Now, what is Covenant here? $55. Okay, I mean, that's pretty decent. So, someone convince me to back this or not back this in the comment section down below. It's cooperative, asymmetric powers, going over, having AI systems deal with the enemies, getting more heroes, and everything else that all of these other expansions offer you. I'm not going to break all this down. Smarter people, as you saw the quotes up above, have told you how good this is. I want you, as my loyal crowds, as you hear me often do on the don't back it side of things, sell me. Tell me why I should not back this. Okay. That's all I'm going to throw out there, right? Stretch goals, they throw a little bit of content in there. Upgraded Expedition Mover, but it looks like you're getting some gameplay there too. Frickin' A, right? Do I want to spend $200 on a board game that I wasn't expecting to this week? No. Okay, don't back it. Okay, remind me. I'll see you guys later. Honors End, IV Studios. And I'm actually, again, surprised both of these don't have a little bit more money. I completely skipped over the part there from Return to Dark Tower, where I said, is that going to be saturation now? Which is why you've got a fraction of even what your backer kit funding is. Anyway, but I did a video on this one, if you watched it or if you didn't watch it. It's a cooperative deck builder with a unique combo-driven spin of only being able to play a card combo row, like one set of combos down, unless you have other cards that allow you to do more additional combos based on the cards in your hand, with a limited deck build feel, with a cooperative pool all your money, but also attack the same enemy in an almost vaguely Aeon's End style vibe, with a not open market of buying whatever you want, but when you get upgraded with one of the 2 resources, then you get to actually pick the number of cards off the top of the deck equal to the number of players plus 1, draft and pass style. So there are all the quotes, which just reminds me that I never sent Austin a quote, but I'm also not usually the quote person on the page, so if you see a quote from me, it's more unusual than usual. But again, this is how I feel about quotes in general on board game pages. I'm not sure that they're actually that useful, so again, I don't really mind not having quotes on the page either, because you saw my other quote, right? Unlike anything else. I mean, there's the exact same quote here from the Cardboard Herald. I'll leave it at that. Story mode, adventure mode. I think the adventure mode is the one that I would be more interested in, as I said in my video, because I don't feel like the story adds a ton. I worry about the unlockable stuff, and that was the other thing that they gave us, was that it was such a limited view of things. I worry what the complexity creep or the overarching what isn't yet available, even to people like me getting a prototype, of what it's going to look like. But I really do like the multi-use card combo system. I think the solid foundation is there. But it's that unknown that I was like, okay, what is this going to look like at the end point? So it's got some clever things. I like it more than Moonrakers, but there you go. Bunch of paid content on here too, and with all the IV Studio stuff, you get the upgrades. You get the wooden tokens, you get all of the foils that they're known for, upgraded dice, all in box with the dice tower. Dice tower's not necessary, and bags, plastic bags work well. App if you really love that thing, and breakdown of the pledges. So I think $89 for the deluxe version actually is really good for them, all things considered. So, yeah. Is that all in, though, for the gameplay, too? And that was the other thing that I kind of wondered, was, is there going to be additional content, right? Like expansions. And this is my first time actually looking at the page because I already knew kind of what it was adding. So Moonrakers, pin, playmat, app, okay. Lots of quotes from the paid side of things scattered throughout the page, but it doesn't look like, at least at the time of me scrolling and looking at this, hey, I forgot to send Austin my link too. So there's my video at the bottom. And if you want to know more of my thoughts, well, don't listen to my thoughts. Go listen to smarter people, as I always tell you. Go do that. But seriously though, I think this is up there if they can execute this with probably ranking-wise, having played all the IV Studios games to this date, not as still going to surpass Mythic Mischief, but it could, because I do have a fondness for cooperative games and deck builders, surpassing potentially Veiled Fate and putting it up there with Time to Panic, which I think is that good. And I think Pillars of Fate, the card game driven one of the Fate styles of the two, I think the card game one is better than the abstract that they ran on crowdfunding. So it would probably be top 5 at bare minimum if this complexity and the intuitiveness as well as the innovation ends up being that good at the end product. So again, I'm very critical on my video, but again, you criticize things that you love because I don't want you guys to get stuff that you won't love too. Okay, Mystic Moon is here. Unstable Games, $600,000. You're doing this over a 5-round situation, grabbing resources from this central sort of tableau, then using them to buy potions from the market over here, then using your resources acquired to place them in your cauldron in the pattern matching at the bottom of the potions to brew as many as you can at once to get your points. Lose all the resources you have at the end if you haven't used them. Rinse and repeat over 5 times as it changes the board that is circular there each round. Because also on the inner circle there, you'll notice that there are other glyphs that give you additional powers, actions, or resources. That is Mystic Moon. Deluxe gets you, well, 2 expansions and some card sleeves as well. The full box set gets you vinyls, playmats, and everything else that they've tried to make you FOMO for in the past. Cauldron mugs, enamel pins, Cloudhead 5! I mean, again, if you get it on crowdfunding, it's not a bad deal. Now, they've made some of their Kickstarter stuff exclusively previously available, so the question just is, when will this be available too? And how much are people going to try and scalp this on the secondary market? Because inevitably I see this literally get turned around every single time it's delivered. Core box, expansions, and bling. So I mentioned that you're going to be doing this. Here's the how to play video. It's pretty decent for what it is. The garden tiles that you're going to be having stacked up, the ingredients that you're going to be slowly splaying out after the turn-by-turn situation happens to refill it to make sure there's enough ingredients for other people. Because when you actually grab ingredients, I didn't mention that, but you saw how they're arranged around the outside. You grab one column from an area, and then you grab the resources on both sides of that column as well. You've got your witch's hut where you're brewing things, the garden where the resources are at, the ingredients, the potions, as well as a few of the other things that I didn't mention in addition. Star points are just victory points. And look at that. Look at that. They actually have a rule book up. That's a first for Unstable Games, in case you're keeping track like I am. Now, it's all one page, so take that for what you will. It's not too long, though, if you're looking at the how to play aspects, because you're activating these glyphs that I mentioned, visiting the shop to buy the potions, returning back, blooming new ingredients, rinse and repeat all of those things that I just said. It gives you the example of how you're going to be trying to brew these potions with the combination of resources seen in the lower left-hand corner to mimic what is needed or even mirror it in that way. That's it, right? Those are your recipes. That's how you perform your alchemy. And it runs you through a little bit of more of the resource management here, including the potions and the tokens a little bit even further. So it's a relatively straightforward read. That's it, right? That is Mystic Moon. So is that living up to your hype? I like that they've got a little bit more transparency than on previous campaigns. I'm still not sure it's right for me, though, but give it a look. Speaking of big surprises, though, this is by far and away the biggest surprise to me, that this isn't much higher funding-wise. Again, not because there's anything wrong necessarily, but in your head, you kind of get this picture of what you think the funding is going to be when you look at enough crowdfunding pages like this, because Creative Game Studios is known for this thing, right? Dante's Inferno was their previous one. All of the Chronicles of Drunagor was before that. Both of those games got massive hype from the people on my side of the camera. So I imagined when you're doing really more solely of a boss battler, that this would have done more, which just boggles my mind at the same time that it doesn't. And again, I haven't watched any of the content video-wise for this game, so maybe the video people are bashing it more than I know. But scenario-driven boss battling for 1 to 2 hours, if it actually plays in that style of things, like, I'm super interested in this. I reached out to them about, like, trying to cover this before the campaign. Is it a price point issue? Let's skip down here. The rulebook is on the page. Okay, the all-in, but that gets everything, including deluxifications. $79 for a core box is good. Does that get you the stretch goals too? It does. So miniature version still not outrageous. Gameplay all in is $200. So again, pricing wise, that doesn't surprise me. There's the little follow gift, I think, right? Is this Odin? And then what is this? With a Berserker Legacy, so adding more characters. Okay, fine. Of Crowns and Flames, more champions. Okay. Hela, again, another, well, I'm assuming that's a boss. Not an absolute metric ton of money in terms of the cost there. A few unlocks, additional characters. That's fine. I kind of want to see, let's go back up here for a second. As I scrolled through this, though, and compare it to the Uprising Curse of the Last Emperor, what makes this unique? And I don't see that before I get to the pay style of things. But the rulebook is right here as well, which also isn't terribly massive, right? It's only a 22-page rulebook, which is relatively sparse compared to their other games. If your champion gets knocked out, you lose. If you run out of time, you lose. There are scenario-specific lose conditions as well, but it's taking a spin on the rondel mechanism as you advance through the rounds. As you saw on the previous page, as well as this one, it's a hex-based movement grid situation. Champion cards, champion grids, fatigue element as you're going around and manipulating with the use of dice, upgradable along the way, minions that you're going to be going up against here, taking the first turn before everybody else, the gods themselves that you will be going up against as well, and then how your champions are going to perform with this rondel-based mechanism. And it's straightforward, right? You choose the one you want to perform, and then you take all the cubes in it, and then just reposition them in a clockwise manner, doing your potential attacks that are available to you. You can do other things alongside of that, though, besides just dealing damage. Rituals, which are allowing you to get charges of your special skills, as well as offerings at altars to get boons. I think it's doing something different. I just want to see that maybe more on the page and less in the rulebook here. That would be my only consideration. I don't know, right? It's just one of those where sometimes, as much as I cover crowdfunding, I also sometimes just don't have a freaking clue why stuff gets some money and why stuff doesn't. So the campaign progress, we looked at that. The how you play style of things, right? More cubes, stronger actions. This needs to be higher up on the page. Upgrade your champion. Are the upgrades meaningful in that way? And how much do the miniatures add? Do you like gray plastic, or would you rather have just, little cardboard standees? So that's fine. Here are your characters. Here are your characters. Oh, those are kind of cool, though. Those miniatures are kind of cool. I like that. So then it talks about the other mechanisms that I mentioned. It runs you through the different areas on the map as well that I talked about. The interests, the spawning areas, the altars, the combinations of the gods and the scenarios that you get to go up against. So this looks like something unique. I like the idea of this. Is it just that people are comparing it to the boss battlers they already have, or that are upcoming in the form of the Awakened Realms form of things, with Grim Coven, your previous Oathsworns, Townsfolk tussles, I don't know, right? The review content was actually out there almost a month prior to the campaign, so that looks like almost an AI-generated version of me, because I tried that once. Anyway, sorry, squirrel. But that's it. That's surprising. I don't see any big, major, like, flaws or red flags, but I don't know. Again, sell me in the comment section down below with this one. Now we're going over to Cranio Creation. By the way, I'm still hoping to get a copy of Echoes of Time for the upcoming Essen release. They said that their first round of review copies was out and they'd get back to me at some point. So I'm kind of still, fingers crossed, hoping for one. At the same time, I don't expect it. So this is, though, as I think Cranio has done once or twice previously, basically just a big expansion crowdfunding campaign. And as you can see here, pulled up in front of you, your pledge menu. I kind of like that, actually, as a menu. Barrage, Rats of Wister, Golem, your Cranio expansion pack, Golem all in, Rats, Barrage, and Cranio expansion all in. I can't speak to the specifics of a lot of these games. Again, this is the only thing I know about Barrage, is this is the maybe, what, 3rd or 4th expansion with a new map, and you're getting a new company. So is that enough for you? Do you love that game? Same thing with Rats of Wister, new player abilities, variable setup. We goes through that. Golem as well. I haven't heard nearly as much about Golem. I think that was a big deal, like, what, 2 years ago at Essen, and then it kind of fell off. Get all of them, get the all-in. Ooh, that's actually a pretty good price. And then that's the other thing I remember, I think, from their other crowdfunding campaign that did something like this, is the all-in with some of their stuff is actually, I think, relatively decent. Barrage all-in. Barrage isn't, I think, available too much on the secondary market. So as expensive as that is, I think if you board game oracled this sucker, it would probably be less. I'm not doing it in the middle of this video, though. I've done that enough times. But that's it. And again, it's got a few other add-ons, a few other promos, and so all of their promos, it looks like, as well, from previous stuff. So this is exactly like they did previously, and it gives people a chance to get the other promos that they were unable to do so. And as weird as that sounds coming out of my mouth, right? Like, I'm a big fan of that. I'm looking at, like, the promo of Gen Con for a few things, like Fate of the Fellowship promo, or some of the Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth promo tiles, or the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking, promo. They're just mother effing unavailable. And I would be willing to pay a slight premium to get them. But you just can't unless you're a convention junkie or you're a content creator that goes to all these things and has, basically the hookup. And if you're just one of those people that can't go, I have been steady in my criticism of this, that it pisses me off. And I said that pre-pandemic, I said it during the pandemic, and I'm still standing by it post-pandemic. So, you know what, Cranio Creations? Thank you. And this is another interesting one. Secret Societies from Garphill. It is more of like a tableau auction bidding style game. This was the secret project from them. And I can't speak to exactly, again, why it doesn't have more money, sort of like BattleForge, right? The whims of crowdfunding fancies are all over the place. The only thing that comes to mind off the top of my head as a segue, getting into this before talking about it actually, is that sometimes I feel like companies pigeonhole themselves into this is what you do. So your diehards will back everything you do, right? Like Stonemaier champions and Chip Theory strategists and Simon snort junkies, whatever you want to call them, of any other kind, right? And so Garphill definitely has put out a type in the past. So if this is straying further from that, do you alienate your core audience to begin with? Now, I say that. At the same time, I am also, my personal feeling is not reflective of that. I like people trying new and different things. But as a business, you got to be careful, obviously, in that regard. And I guess the other aspect is just maybe not what people wanted at the same time. But it's a phase-based system that you are using your agents as different factions to bid for deed cards in order to basically increase your tableau and your income to score more than everybody else. It's a bidding system where I believe, if I read the rule book correctly, you actually lose whatever coins are bid, even if you don't win the bid. But it's got several meaningful different aspects as well. 8 asymmetric player powers and factions that I alluded to. It is auction. It is player dynamic dependent. Events at the end of the majorities of the round, which are going to change what's happening. You are building your society with those deeds to help increase your income or your scoring, which income phase is actually the first phase prior to actually making the bids. And there's a lot of content. Rulebooks are there, tabletop simulators there. Again, this is all the paid content pretty much, though. I don't know actually if Shelfside was paid, but the other ones I'm pretty sure all were. And that was some of the comments I saw over on Reddit, right? Like, has anybody actually played this that wasn't paid, was the comment that I saw. That'd be my question. This looks very much in line with what I would expect out of Garphill in the first place, to be frank with you. How busy this appears, how much you're going to be managing, like, that definitely reminds me of a Garphill game as a whole. But if it doesn't give you the mechanistic approach that you're used to, that would be, I guess, the only question there. So there you go. A few live streams, and it did not look like Shelfsides was paid. It looked like it was actually a review. But again, I don't know. But I'd like to see companies do this. I just hope it pays off financially as well. Because then, if it does, we'll be rewarded. But at the same time, you can't complain, just like, people going to the movies and saying everything is the same. Well, you don't watch the stuff that's different, so nobody makes the stuff that's different. So same thing here. If you don't buy or be interested in the stuff that's different, people will just make the same thing. And how do you feel about that? Because you could go either way easily. Baba's House? I have no freaking clue what to make of this one, folks. 85 grand though, so it's a horror-esque sort of exploratory escape the dark horror room situation. You start out with some tiles face up and you go until everyone's either escaped the house or is killed. And based on which you do and what objectives or quests you complete along the way determines how many points you get at the end of the game. You have this basic action set of things that you can do at the beginning as you slowly reveal new areas, explore, and have an event deck that determines what happens in each of those areas as you go through. This is heavily deck and card driven though. There's like 6 or so decks that you're going to be pulling from for all of these different aspects, including your own individual actions. You're also going to be having enemies that spawn and rolling a d6 essentially every time you enter a new area to determine what happens event-wise when you go into that area. Like it says here, personal agendas, secret objectives, no permadeath, because then you can go kill other players after you've been taken out by the game. How do you feel about that level of take that? $25 for some tarot, $65 for the regular, and 2 expansions for $132. That's a lot. And you wanted the tarot, you can do that too. Bosses, characters, rooms, and again, all the other decks that are getting more stuff as well. I have no idea. Again, having skimmed through the rule book, it's definitely different, but is this intriguing enough that you're going to like some of these key concepts? Escaping from the house with the house key, secret agendas that we talked about. I mean, it's only a 9-page rule book, so it leaves a lot to be desired to say, okay, what is the flow going to look like and what are all those cards going to do? But I guess people are willing to take a chance on it, so if you are too, give it a look-see. Battlecrest Overlord Season 3. So I have covered the first 2 seasons of Battlecrest. I forget if I got the email and I just decided not to, or if I just missed the email. I don't know. Battlecrest, tactical, pocket-sized skirmish game with asymmetric characters. As you use their individual cards, you flip them over, so you end up with a combination of cards on both sides, giving you different options with a card-based sized map in the first place. I think I have year 1 and year 2 already. But somehow, in some way, in some shape or form, they're adding one of my favorite things, an Overlord co-op. Now, I worry about the AI system in something like this. That would be my only question of how it works. I talked about the double-sided action cards and what you can do and the icons that go along with the actions and correlations, the minions or the additional equipment that you have scratching the surface as additional sets. Again, another set there, a little bit of download. So what's the new set though? Just a new place and a couple new heroes. Okay. Download the print and play, expansion collection 5. So 4 new heroes as a whole. And I'm assuming that is, oh no, that's a solo expansion. So Is that the same thing as what the boss would be as well? Okay, okay. I'm not sure I have all that, but I have a lot of it, at least in the past. So let's see. Okay. Where is the actual discussion of the cooperative side of things? It's not really on the page a whole lot, but I guess that would be the one I'd want to know most about. So I just wish there were more details on the page, but you know, it's button shy. So it's well known and a lot of people love their stuff, and that's why it's got 32 grand. And then we have Dawn of Pangaea, almost $60,000, which is relatively impressive as well. And this is a medium weight strategy game where you are taking one of 5 main phase actions in order to phrasing spread your seed. I'm sorry, I can't resist it. Sometimes it's just too perfect. And essentially grow trees and summon creatures, land rituals, or even rituals for the ancient spirits. You're growing these trees and you can play solo, co-op, or competitive. The 5 actions that you're going to be taking, including spreading your seed to adjacent areas to where your trees are, putting a seed anywhere on the map, watering them with spirits to grow them into trees, but then also using said ritual cards or summoning the ancients if you're playing with those as additional modes. So you're going to be slowly gathering points by doing these rituals as well as spreading the trees all around in the end. So when you do this, tree-wise, for example, you get the tokens based on the biomes that they're in. Those tokens then allow you to buy some of the other ritual cards then to score victory points, because the ritual, say for the land card, gives you points for what you have in those areas. Rinse and repeat. Ancient Guardians are optional, but again will give you boons to help you do all of the things that we just talked about. Cooperatively, you can try and summon the rituals to defeat the shadows. And what are we getting with the extra expansion here? Extra layer of depth, extra layer of gameplay, and extra layer of trees. So there you go. Rulebook is right here, as you can see on the page and glancing at it as well. Couple videos, and whoa, that's some big words. One of the highlights of 2025 gaming so far. Whoa, some big words there. Few videos of everything that you might want. 65, but what currency is that? 57 US dollars, 76 US dollars for the expansion, and the deluxe is going to run you 82. Not bad for a deluxe Euro game. Is it medium weight? Looks about right as well. I think I'd have to watch one of these playthroughs to see the flow, but I think I could actually understand it. Now, understanding and playing the game well, as I always say, not the same, and one of those I'm not good at. Is there a market for tables? Hell yeah, there's a market for tables. Do you want a D&D game table? Because they'll give you a D&D game table that you can potentially customize. Holy F-balls, that's expensive. That's one of the most expensive campaigns for tables I've seen on crowdfunding. So take that for what you will, I guess. Accoutrements, not free, just different add-ons and different levels. So you can do that, all that stuff. But again, if we made tables before, we will make tables again. Which reminds me, I actually got an email from the Starmorg people back, and they said they send me a table. And I feel kind of weird about it. I haven't quite decided. Again, let me know in the comment section down below. I talked about their campaign previously. Should I take them up on their offer? What do you think? Now, the Wandmaker's Apprentice here looks like a very intriguing concept as an head-to-head, 2-player, asymmetric-based, well, as it says, making wands. $60,000. So, very intriguing. I'm not sure if it's really going to be 60 minutes. It looks a little bit more complex based on the asymmetry, but the actual mechanistic approach I think is more straightforward, so that might be true. If you want to bling this thing out, they show you all the bling that you can do out here, and all of the other stuff, and all of the deluxifications, and all of that stuff. And then you finally get past all the pledge levels, because you can spend $100 on this thing, even though the GameFound exclusive edition is $49, which includes acrylic standees. So that's a decent price. All the little add-ons, what's in the box, ultimate GameFound situation, their story. Okay, great. How to play, though. How to play. You take up 4 different decks that you'll be utilizing with the currency that's available. Rolling the dice, putting the authorities down, trying to appease customers that are coming to the shop with a 5 base card hand on a turn-by-turn basis, acquiring the resources to build the different pieces of your wand, which will give it a different abilities, different points, as well as different buyers in addition. Because you have to match it to potentially the buyer that is interested, and depending on how well you do, will change your situation. Better? Improved. Worse? Decreased. But the asymmetric option as well, past the other Wandmaker actions that it talks about, right? Alert the magical authorities, because the Apprentice has basically access to the dark arts, stir the cauldron to change the power, potentially on what happens there, and some little bit of card manipulation. The Apprentice, again, convince customers of their actual strength and move around and use persuasion and a dice in order to help you out. Book of Fates is going to give you points in that way. The dark persuasion, the dark arts are playing into this, and then scoring through the customer phase of matching them up in the first place. So 2 rounds of that, as you can build 3 wands per round. Little stretch goals and a ton of deluxifications. I'm going to have to watch the gameplay for this one. I saw them post looking for reviewers on our Facebook reviewer page, but I'm intrigued more now seeing it in person. So we'll see. We'll talk about it because it's Obsession, but in all-in-one rules reference. The fact that you have to put one of those out maybe speaks to having a little bit too much content. just teasing. I wouldn't mind a Marvel United rulebook that had every single variant and expansion difference in a single binder, if you will. Playmat, those are nice. Box that holds everything, don't need it. But you want to spend a bunch of money doing this? Yeah, if you love Obsession and you want to spend anywhere between $18 and a hell of a lot of money, well, you can do that. So deluxify it, bling it, and make it your, I'm sorry, I can't resist, obsession. Then Tenpenny Parks with expansions. 2 new expansions from Thunderworks Games here as one of their upcoming games I talked about in the last news video. The interesting thing I'm going to put with this is that if we scroll all the way back up here, because I was glancing at these before filming this, Collector's Edition, Gameplay All In. I'm confused because this says Gameplay All In, but then down here you say that I get deluxe components. So I don't view that as a Gameplay All In. I view that as the deluxe collector's level, but that's a minutia thing. 2 expansions, a total of $60 if you buy them separately, $56 if you get the bundled edition right there. This is a tile-laying tiny towns, if you will. You're placing your workers out, accessing the building options that are there for you, then utilizing your polyomino style, placing them on your board without, which distinguishes it from several of the other tile layers, adjacency to other buildings in the first place. Then you have to attract and market the people that actually come to your rides in order to thrill, awe, and joy them. Yes, enjoy them, joy them. See what I did there? I'm getting clever. Not really. 5 rounds to do that. The most visiting wins. You've seen it on crowdfunding before, and that's the 2 expansions. Is that what you're looking for? There were a little mini expansion challenges the first time around as well. I think it's very divisive in terms, I've seen people love it that love this style of things, and I've seen people that are kind of meh on it. I don't know. It's one of those tile layers I haven't really played because it's got a little bit of that programming worker placement action, and it's just never really caught my eye as much. So that is what we've got going with Tenpenny, but it's doing well. 53 grand. Give it a look. Okay, finally, we have the Heroes of Might and Magic, the card game from Archon. The card game versus the miniature game, which we've seen already has raised gadzooks amount of money. Is the card game situation going to raise as much? Well, clearly no, but what do you need to know about this head-to-head, deck-to-deck style game? Now, I said that because I can't really tell how much deck construction there is, because the rules state that you have a 60 card, sort of faction in a box, if you will, starter, but 45 cards in the deck. The other 15 cards are like your hero, the places / locations you put on the board, your characteristic cards. So a few of the other stuff that aren't directly the cards that you're playing, spending resources for, and laying on the table in the same way. And that's why I'm confused, because it says of those 45 cards, you can include cards from up to 2 factions. But the weird thing is, if you look at the content within each of these boxes, they only have enough to just do it itself, right? It says, okay, you can only have so many copies of this, you can only have so many copies of this. And so it's sort of setting you up for the construction, but I can't really find anywhere where it says exactly anything more. I'm probably just missing it. But what are you doing in this game? You are taking a Summoner Wars-esque vibe with your hero as you spend resources via the use of almost Magic the Gathering style TCG lands tapping in the form of skills, of the 3 different, skills that you're going to have available. And the difference, or the twist, is although each of these cards has a cost in the upper left-hand corner, and it tells you the health and the defense on the right side, and then it tells you the ability at the bottom, the difference is that if you don't want to use that card, you can flip it face down on top of one of your skill piles, your resource piles, and utilize it that way, because it does a tapping situation, spending it and untapping it at the beginning of the round to do more. A very basic draw 3 cards at the end of your round also replenishes your hand. At the beginning of the game, you just place your hero out in the middle spot, and then each of you has 3 location cards that you can place on your half, I believe. I didn't actually say that in the video or the rules as explicitly as I would have liked, but they can only have 1 per column, and that's going to play into the other dynamics, because you need to do either a certain number of damage, 20 to your opponent's hero, in order to win, or they run out of cards and don't have units on the board. So again, 800 cards that are associated with this. But let me show you why I'm a little bit, okay, what is going on here? Because when you start looking at what's offered, right, this is the starter 2-player pack. 45 Necropolis cards, 45 Castle cards, 2 heroes, 1 for each side. You have the statistics, and then you have the AI cards here. If you're going up against, I believe, solo, location cards that I mentioned. Okay, and the tokens, because otherwise it's a straightforward move attack. You have 3 actions on a turn, and then the other person gets to go back and forth. Play a card, do an attack. Things like that are going to be very straightforward because there is a limited amount of movement. The other weird thing is, with the typical move across an attack style, if you attack, you actually don't get to move afterwards. Ranged, for example, if they're inside or outside of a certain range, then you actually have, as we see with D&D, disadvantage, which just means you do half your damage. Your creatures will have retaliation, and you will have the ability, if you have a multiple of a card, instead of playing a second card of the same type, you can discard it to increase the unit's number by 1. If you kill it off, it loses a unit. If they have no units left total, then it's wiped off of the board. But again, all of these expansions, all 9 of them, have the same thing. So do you just mix and match these individual decks right here, the 45 of this one and the 45 of this one, and take like 22 and a half of each? I'm joking, but you take a limited amount of each in that way? I just can't tell. So that's the only thing I really wasn't able to find easily on this page, and I'm probably missing it. So I'm sure that there is more out there. 50 stretch goals, 240 extra cards if you like that sort of thing as well. And it's both slightly more expensive and slightly less expensive than I was expecting, with this gameplay all in as well, including the stretch goals, for 130 euros. You can get the 2-player for 50 euros. But that's all of the expansions. And again, I'm not kidding here, right? This is all in one big box. Core starter set, stretch goals, expansion, 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 hero pack expansion, magic and might expansions at the bottom. So that is what we've got going on. Now, if you want all the deluxeifications and playmats, don't worry, you can get that too. Stretch goals over all the additional content, piecemealing it there, rule book in addition, tabletop simulator, and that's the only other video right there that you can see. So I don't really know what to make of this. I'm intrigued. I like the premise of it in a sort of a Rockin' Wars meets Summoner Wars, if you will. But I need to know how much construction there actually could be. I need to know how much mixing and matching I can do. And I don't get a good sense of what most of the abilities are going to offer in the first place because there's not really any information in that regard. So I like it, but I don't know if I like it enough to spend this much right now with such very, 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 very limited information without a hands-on comparatively to all the other outstanding card head-to-head dueling games like this in the first place. Next up, Primal Hex. And it's a hex-based 6-turn situation where at the beginning of your turn, you actually roll 10 dice. And this is the tricky thing, right? If you roll a 4 or higher, it's considered a success. All of your actions are based on certain numbers of success in order to take them. When we pull up the rule book here, again, short rule book, and it's only a 6-phase system. Roll your dice, choose your tactics card, place 3 orders on your hexes, 1 face up, 2 face down. Reveal them simultaneously and apply them in order. Discard, rinse, and repeat. It runs you through, if we scroll up here, the key concepts and features with the various options of how you're going to be doing this. Like I mentioned, the cost, 1 success, 2 success, 3 success, 2 success, 0 success, 4 success. So that is kind of what you're doing as you try to take over these regions to end up with the most victory points after all said 6 rounds that you will be rinsing and repeating in this way. Why back now? Okay, you get a little miniature expansion, first player marker. Somehow that's going to be 160 euros. Whew, boy. A few tiny stretch goals, a little deluxe, and a little bit of gameplay. So, gameplay and details here, redefined. Okay, the keywords there that you can see across the board. We talked about what the game bundles and a little bit of the other pricing is. So does that intrigue you? Again, I think it gives me a try before I buy vibe more than anything else. It's got some interesting actions that you do with this dice rolling and how you're choosing to deploy your orders and having different events of weather happen, which are going to change the dynamics as you go along. I think, every 2 rounds it says. Rulebook is there, a little bit of content in addition. So do you feel lucky, punk? Oh, not just a little bit of content here. Absolutely freaking metric ton in all languages. So if Primal Hex sounds interesting to you, I guess go check it out on GameFound. Now we have detectives versus criminals. And I'm not sure what to make of this thing because they're saying it's a different twist on the hidden movement style of things as we are used to sort of the one versus all, and it's a little bit more teamish, if you will. What you're going to be doing is a team of criminals versus a team of detectives, but you're going to have different options on each side, which is going to give you different asymmetric abilities with a deduction-based mechanic. And that's kind of what they're really laying into as their unique style of this type of game. Your characters, your coordination of your criminals. You're going to start off with cities that you know treasures are in. You need to get 5 of the treasures. The criminals can't be caught though, because if the good guys get 5 handcuffs on the board, they win as they chase across in an action by action 2-turn back and forth battle. Now you may be face up and known to where the detectives are. You may be face down and hidden. And so what happens there is part of the deductive reasoning. And so it also somehow already is giving us 3 expansions in the craziness that goes along with this, right? I'm not kidding. Rain and Fog, Darkness of Dracula, and Sherlock Holmes. Gameplay with Sherlock Holmes giving you some extra tension and extra good guys that you can use going up against Moriarty. Rain and Fog here, if we pull this one up, gives you new elements. Veterans and sergeants, tougher good guys and bad guy minions to use along the way, extra fight dice that are going to be a little bit better, and somehow if you really want to play this thing at 6 and be a sadist, you can do that too. But instead of getting hit and losing cards, you get wounds. So that's going to give you not only things to contend with, but this expansion will also somehow throw in a cooperative and a solo mode in addition. Special heists, if you give that mode as well. 1 target instead of 5, as I mentioned, is one of the win conditions. And then the last one here, it's freaking Dracula, right? Good guys, bad guys, good guys, bad guys, special actions, Dracula doing things crazy different. Dracula creates his own things. He's got layers. He's got relics that he's going up against on the good guy side of things. And, well, vampires have more special abilities. So, compatible? Yes, it's all compatible. But it's still going to cost you a hell of a lot of money. And by the time you are looking at this, the 48-hour early bird, I'm pretty sure is going to be gone. The mechanistic approach seems unique. But, again, I look at it and I go, is this going to be hidden movement, deduction, deduction, deduction? Or is it going to be more like Beast, where it's got some of that? And I think this is actually more of the former rather than the latter, but there is some fighting with dice rolling. And so that's an interesting mix as a deductive game. When you market yourself as a deduction game and then you give me randomness with dice, again, I don't care. But if you're looking at this and wondering if this is right for you, that's probably the biggest thing you have to wonder. The other mechanic that we didn't talk about, well, how do you get those treasures? You have to discard cards available to you, but the more good guys that are around, the more it's going to cost you in order to do, and those cards are how you're doing a lot of things. 2 players, 5 players, 6 players, whatever you want to do it as. A little iconography here at the end, a little bit of stretch goals, a little bit of gameplay content, a little bit of deluxeification. I like the idea of this, but this is one I think, for me personally, would have try it before I buy it more than anything else. So, paid content across the board. It's got a lot of other additional stuff, right? This and timeline and whatever. You don't care about the timeline. No one pays attention to that, but it's a year out right now. So, is this going to change your mind on the hidden movement style of things? It is doing something slightly different, looking through the rule book and giving the page a peruse, but different enough for you to fit well. I don't have a clue what this is either. Khromanima, the deck building game. Very interesting twist on the deck building as you have different color anima? Chroma? Whatever you want to call them, as it says there. But you're going to be recruiting them, and then if you have 5 around the core, you make a Megazord. And if they're all 5 the same color, you make an Ultra Super Megazord form. But that's the gist of the game as a card-driven gameplay right here, right? 17 euros though. Okay. Don't buy it because it's cheap though. Buy it because you love what they're offering here. Which, again, with a couple of these pages now on this video, it takes a lot to figure out how you're actually playing it. You win by either getting your opponent down to 0 or you buff yourself up to 100. You set up, you get your cards, the available cards to you in the middle, you play your cards as the main phase, you kill things that are out there engaged with your enemy, and you discard everything else and draw back up. Your forms, right, 4 around your core, flip it, 4 around your core, same color, like I mentioned. But there is a cooperative mode? Oh, okay. Choose your challenge, go up against some of these enemies, the solo mode in addition. So it's not expensive. I wouldn't mind a little bit more on the page just to say how I'm doing that stuff as well. That would be nice. Again, I don't think I'm asking too much there. Kind of see a little bit of everything they got going on in terms of the factions there as well. So with this rule book I pulled up, this is the stuff I would like to see a little bit more of on the page again. You have 4 different color animas that you can do. Energy gainer, damage, defense, and health. So that's what I would like to see. Again, just a little bit more direct. What are you doing overall on a turn-by-turn basis? You get your cards, no resource conservation, so you're losing everything otherwise, and you got to be able to gain them by getting energy. So you spend that and you get more cards. So I don't think this is terribly more complicated. I just wish half of this was on the page in the first place so you could tell exactly how you're going to be having these cards be around things with the pilots, or how you flip these zones and engage them and the keywords. So there's a fair bit going on, but I just don't see as much of it on the page, which I guess is okay, but it's also hard to then feel enticed when I don't understand necessarily on the surface what the style is going to look like. I would wonder if that also makes other people hesitate. Then Eldertide from Esper Game Studios. I owe them an apology as well. I meant to email them back, and it's just one of those that completely got lost in the mailbox shuffle. But they're funded in almost 150% here. So let's talk about what this Civ-esque seafaring route building style of things is doing. because essentially what you're going to be doing is choosing how many points you want to spend on a turn to allocate to go through different ports to decide where you end up to take actions there in the first place. You're leading one of the 5 different asymmetric houses to embark on the mission, like I mentioned, to create the network of beacons. They all have their own unique perks, all of their own stuff, and a little fancy acrylic boat. Pick up and deliver with your routes along this side of this. Breaking ports are going to be happening from storm damage, constructing facilities on your outposts, and dealing with the circumstances that you're left with. As I mentioned, different ports, different actions. More people there, pay more to do it. Broken previously, going to cost you even more just to go there, and then you're not going to be able to do everything that you want there. End of turn, shift the storm around, and it changes things and what's open and what's not damaged. You're going to have different aspects that are limited, but also it says motivating you to fix things based on what you need to do. Energy based. How far can you go? Okay, Cardboard East, go check him out. He's got the word on the street with this one, so it looks doing something different. It looks like it's doing something unique in this way. They're going for the Eldertide world. I think this is one of the first games or one of several games that they're going to be making in this universe, if you will. Every action in the game, like I mentioned, do it at a location. It kind of gives you the vibe of what might be going on there as well. $60, okay, stretch goals. All the extras and accoutrements that go with it. And you just want the retail edition, well, you can downgrade everything as well. But there we go. Eldertide. A few stretch goals to go along. And Cardboard East, go give them a look-see. English rulebook is out there. And you can see anything else that they've got in store for us. A little bit of the houses. And actually, solo mode. I'm leaving it there. That's all I got. This is doing well. Give it a look. Now, rolling in Wonderland. Almost $40,000. And what you're going to be doing is draft rolling and using dice to accomplish whatever the hell you need to accomplish. Dice drafting, difficult to dead simple decision making, right? Abilities, no game is ever alike, quotes, 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 paid content down below, why back it with some mostly get it first. But this is the how to play right here. How to play. Get dice. Roll them in some shape or form, even though it says scatter them. Somehow use those to get characters. Use those characters to get powers. And somehow fend off the Jabberwocky. Clear enough for you? Well, thankfully they hide the little rulebook right here if you like a small sort of thing like a rulebook, right? More of an actual gist of it, when we pull up the rulebook, more than anything else that's on the page, gives us a little bit more of the flow. The Jabberwocky has an attack deck. It moves it to the action area indicated. Roll those dice, allocate them based on where they need to go. When you go to those areas, on the turn-by-turn basis, you draft all of the dice from that area, as it says right here. Put them on your board, on the available spaces. The area determines what action you take. The number of dice and the color is how powerful it is. But you only have 6. Take them or lose them. So that's what limits you on a round-by-round basis. End of round, Jabberwocky is there. If you got people to defend, you get points. End game triggers. If not, rinse and repeat. Talks about a little bit of the mushrooms that you can spend to mitigate, the dice in the first place, and then special abilities alongside. The end game trigger, though, when you reach the White Rabbit path, Caterpillar path ending, have all 12 of your soldiers out, or Jabberwocky is all done. Does that sound of interest to you for $39 for the standard edition? And I knew it was going to be double it for $79 as well, with the meeples and the little storage trays and a little tiny expansion content. There you go, rolling in Wonderland. Now this is an interesting one with caps and stems, raising $30,000 with a 3D mushroom building strategy game. The main part of it, though, at the same time is this allocation of set collections based on the cards in the first place because of the iconography at the bottom, that you're going to be creating these columns that are overlaying, covering up spores, but having to have a commonality between all of them as you go. But that helps you build your actual 3D mushrooms that you can see there in the picture as sort of an abstract style Euro in that way. It gives you a little bit of how to play. As I mentioned, placing these cards down. You're going to get victory conditions and reputation points if you can allocate them correctly, as it gives you a couple examples here. Then you're going to be growing these mushrooms by paying for the pieces needed and getting more reputation. So you grow them next to other ones that match to get even more points. If you don't grow, though, you get a pity spore. I don't know. Hidden cards and objectives, and the rule book with a little bit of content and some deluxifications there in the first place. There will be, if I can scroll past this without going too far, Kickstarter exclusive cards as well. So that is your main reason for backing it right now, which it goes down and shows you right here what you're getting. So $55 gets you all that, $85 deluxifies it, and somehow all the hell up to $100 gets you even more with actual mushrooms. So there you go, 3D stretch goal clusters, and that is everything you need to know from Caps and Stems. So, interested to you? Well, this is not the first mushroom game we've seen on the scene, on probably, up to like 4 or 5 at this point. Lemma Games has us here with Druid Path, a solo monster taming card game. You're choosing one of your asymmetric druids at the beginning of the game to basically quest along this path to defeat your bad guy before the end of round 10. You're going to be spending resources along this path in order to tame the monsters to your side, because if you don't, the bad guy will. Multiple paths, multiple characters, multiple play styles, multiple companions to go along with it, as well as distinct and different abilities from the bad guys. So you have these Beastborgs that you are going to be summoning and utilizing for the strategic approach. To go along with that, we have no automatic card draw with something like a Sky Tier Horde, and each of these cards is multi-use in how you can utilize either the boosts, the abilities, or the shadow side by the enemy. How do you play though? You get your druid, you get your bad guy, you move along the path, gather items, confront the bad guys, roll dice to collect gemstones to match their value. When you do, you gain them on your turn. If you don't gain them though, they go against you. Beat the bad guy before you run out of time. Rulebook is there, $27 for the base. Expansions, prettier gemstones and a cloth bag for over double the price. Whoo dog. Interesting. I want the little bit of extra content because you can see that the Druid edition up here has the extra layer and the Mythical Hybrids expansion, but it goes from 27 to 55 to 75 up to 119 because there's only 100 of those ever printed. So Lemma Games, if you want to save me one of those 100, anyway, just kidding. But it's deluxified there, right? What are you getting? Extra bad guy, extra gameplay mechanics, extra synergy there on both sides, and then the hybrids giving you another set of abilities to raise your game, as they say. Elemental is the mini expansion, core path elements, and get more strategy. Now, if you want to piecemeal it, it looks like you can, for the most part. It's an interesting concept. I'm going to have to watch some video on this one to see if it's really something I would be interested in, or if it's just one of those I go, okay. Though, truth be told, it is a solo game, so it's probably not, me being the target audience in the first place. But if you are, give it a harder look. Legends of ShenZhou. Mythic and unique Chinese-based mythology, sort of crawl-esque game. 94 people, $15,000. Whew. What's the price point on this? Because that's a lot of money being spent. So what are we looking at here? Ooh, 75 people at the $159 pledge? That doesn't seem like enough. Okay. No at the $1,000 pledge for the retail, but you have 9 people at the $260 as well, getting all the gameplay content with the miniature expansion and the deluxe edition and the stretch goals. So it's a hex-based, upgradable, miniature, open-ish world game. That's why you're getting it. Minis and some pretty decently looking ones if you could paint, but there are enough paid content videos down below, so you can check those out. Gives you a little bit of what you're getting in with the gameplay, but I'm not going to be able to tell you exactly how this one differs. Again, it's another of the 28-page rule books here so that you can get a sense of the card decks that you're going to be drawing from, including when you head against the enemies. Though, to be fair, some of these rules are relatively straightforward, and it's not really as dense as it looks. Hero cards with their asymmetric abilities representing their key statistics as you're using them, and then breaking down some of the other elements, including things like weapons and shields and mounts and supplies and creatures and all of those fun things. The one thing I'd like to see on the page, though, is why is this unique? So reviews and recommendations, all of these are previews. All of these are previews, folks. So I don't even know if you can call it reviews. There's no reviews on the page. Some stretch goals that it doesn't look like they're going to hit many, if any of. So the question I would have with this is, are you going to just unlock those for free? Is that built into the price that you've already got here with these higher pledge levels? Or what is that going to look like? So that'd be a big question mark for me as a whole. I like seeing new things and new companies on the scene, but I don't see why this over some of its more contemporary compatriots as well. Shadow and Rune is a tactical deck building game where you actually use those cards to battle, but you have a limited deck at the beginning of 70 cards when you're playing through this, as you can do the solo campaign mode to progress along these paths, which will tune your deck both up, down, left, and right. Spawn your minions here, use your weapons to defeat the enemies along the way. Branching narrative? Okay, we talked about a little bit of this with Honor's End in a different way. Start off with 2 different currencies, put the market out there that you can buy from, summon your creatures to the board, buy more stuff, do the attacks in the very straightforward clashing that they've got there in the first place. The solo and the co-op that I mentioned with the asymmetric people, and again, that's it, right? Branching story, replayability, choices, how to play, rule book. I think it's looking like something neat. Not always a big fan of the black and white aesthetic, but Shadow and Rune is called that for a reason, so thought I'd put this one on your radar as well. Midsummer Night, we'll just talk about it real briefly, $3,700, and it's a path creating, card playing style of game. You start out with 1 card, you get 2 cards, you lay them down, you create these paths. You're trying to create the most paths with the number of tokens or items along the way that you need for scoring. That's what you got going on. They give you a little bit of illustration. Draw 2, pass 1, play 1. Get your tokens, place your pucks down, and again, allows you to shift it around a little bit if you need to, because you can only grab so many, go so many, and you're going to have your own different goals on your card compared to everyone else. A little bit of video, a little bit of rulebook, a little bit of deluxification. So, if you like it, give it a look. I am pretty much almost at my limit with this one, but we're talking about it because it's funded. Fetch and Feathers and Duel with a difference in DOT what they got going on here. So, you're going to be slowly, with Fetching Feathers, going through things, placing birds into locations that have the food that they need to score points as you help them migrate to their different homes. Increasingly deal out a number of cards, draft and pass, and then place them on either side of the location to match the resources that are required. Play an upgrade, get new flock spots, and then score based on the feathers at the locations and any bonuses that might go along with it. That's the game. Other one, DOT, 2 players, 10 minutes. That's all you need to know. Secretly play your cards to manipulate and change the goals for either being on target or off target. Like it says there in the quote, strategy and deduction. Woods printed meeples to make you feel special. There's a rule book. There's a how to play. I'm going to leave this one to you because I am about ready to tap out and this video has gone on long enough. But if you want, there's plenty of content to tell you how to do it. Either way though, congrats on funding. But I'm out. So that's it. That's the crowdfunding. Holy frickin' hell. Lot of a game. Super long video. I'm sure none of you watched half of that situation. It's still not even the middle of October, so buckle up. Tons of more stuff coming between now and the end of the month, including yours truly covering a few of them as well. A couple more reviews I already have filmed. I'll be trying to edit. If you missed out on earlier in the week's Essen video, I'll have the Essen video of the things to watch for, not just the year look back like I did. The interesting thing of that video, in case you didn't watch that one, is that there's tons of stuff that's not getting the clicks or the hotness of the over 1,200 games right now that are on the Board Game Geek preview list. There are many that are going to be in the 60s, 80s, hundreds that are going to get up much higher a year or two afterwards. So that's why you should tune in and listen to me occasionally, but not too often. But that's all I got. Stay classy. Have a great freaking fantastic weekend. Peace out. See you later.